Good morning, traders, and welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Thursday, December 4th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. I'm looking at the S&Ps right now. We're up 0.12%. That's more than a tenth of a percent. That's actually positive. We've been flat to lower, flat to higher all morning long. So now that I'm seeing a little uptick, I'm getting a little excited for this morning. I mean, there's a number of earnings reports due out, today, and you got some economic data, and then tomorrow is another big day for economic data. And the market is really like benefiting from the rate cut expectations for next week, because that's a central theme in the markets right now is rate cut expectations from the Fed. This morning we're waiting on data on jobless claims. That's due out this morning before the opening bell, and tomorrow key report, PCE report, inflation report. What else do we have? President Trump spoke with NVIDIA CEO yesterday. They talked about export controls. China's unlikely to accept that H200 chip as a solution. They want NVIDIA's best chips, and you're giving them chips that are one or two generations behind. That's not really going to be acceptable to them. The EU, they're out there. They're launching another antitrust probe against Meta over their WhatsApp app application. Costco, look at Costco. Last night, it was first Wednesday of the month, and Costco reported their November comparable sales. They were up 6.9% month over month. That's positive. Paramount's out there. They're raising the breakup fee for Warner Brothers, to over $5 billion. That's kind of positive. On the earnings front, listen, we got Salesforce, CRM, Five Below, FIVE, Guidewire, GWRE, SIAC, SAIC. They're all trading higher after their earnings releases. Today, after the bell, we got earnings due out from HPE, Ultra, ULTA, IoT, Samsara, Charlie Oscar, Cooper Companies, and DocuSign, DOCU. Let's take a look at the European market and see what we're doing right now. We're looking at the DAX. The DAX is up 198 points. That's 0.84%. That's the highest this morning. So, yeah, the DAX continues to rally. Gains are in autos. Gains are in energy stocks. That's positive. The FTSE was, opened flat to lower, and now it's up. It's up 0.13%. Some gains in banks and pharma stocks. The CAC in Paris is up, 0.41%. It's really boosted by strength in tech, and luxury names are trading higher as well. That's where you're seeing the outperformance. And then last night in Asia. Asia was a mixed bag, but mainly positive, I will have to say. I mean, look at the Nikkei. The Nikkei jumped 2.33%. That's 1,163 points overnight. You had outperformance in tech and industrial stocks on that exchange. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong, that rose 0.68%. You saw positive action in banks and tech stocks. Then you have China. China was flat to lower. It was down 0.06%. Those markets are cautious because they got that Central Economic Work Conference next week, I believe, and they want indications of fiscal and monetary policy directions for 2026. So they're kind of ebbing their enthusiasm until they get some clarification from the policymakers. And then we're turning our attention over to oil. And oil's still a big factor because, listen, we're up about 0.5%. You got WTI at $59.32 a barrel. You got Brent at $62.97 a barrel. And these geopolitical concerns continue to, support the prices. I mean, you have the stalled Russian peace talks. You got President Trump's shifting policy on Venezuela. And then you get the EIA data, which, it is really bearish. I mean, it showed, inventories rose by 600,000 barrels yesterday. But these geopolitical concerns are outweighing, are really is what causing oil prices to move higher. So, keep an eye on oil. Oil will continue to be volatile. Now we're turning our attention over to earnings. We got to talk about CRM, Salesforce. They beat by 39 cents. But, guess what? It was done on lower revenue. Which I find interesting, but I was watching the stock and I had a position in it. It's trading up 1.43% to 242.14. I mean, it hit like 260 last night, for a while there. So, I mean, the gains have pulled back, but they did have a good report. Salesforce.com, CRM, GWRE, Grace William Richard Edward, they beat by 5 cents. They did it on higher revenue. Guidewire is up 7.07% this morning. And then there's Five Below, ticker FIVE. They beat by 42 cents, and they did that on higher revenue. That stock's trading higher by 3.92% after a strong day yesterday. So, yeah, Five Below, very, very nice report. Then upcoming after the bell today, we get DocuSign, DOCU. Their EPS is 33 cents, and the expected move is 9.59%. Ultra Beauty, their EPS is $4.51. Expected move is 7.92% when they release their earnings after the bell today. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about the economic data happening. This morning we got the jobless claims reports coming out. Okay, expectations are looking for a reading around 220K. Last week it came in 216K. So, slightly higher, but anything around that 220 is really where the expectation is. Anything under 230 is positive. What else do we have? President Trump is really, he's said he's made a decision, the Fed chair. It looks like it's going to be Kevin Hassett. And, the number one issue for Trump is loyalty. Loyalty. He wants a guy that will do exactly what he says when he says. Kevin Hassett appears to be that guy. He's been, vying for that position. So, that gives him, multiple Fed governors and Fed president, going into next year. So, no, not the Fed chairman, but he's got multiple Fed governors on his slate going into next year. And, in February, they're going to be voting on whether or not which Fed bank presidents to retain and to continue their terms for 5 years. So we're going to see a little bit of market flare-ups around this because Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he announced a new plan he's proposing a new plan that's going to require all 12 regional Fed bank presidents to have lived within their respective districts for at least 3 years prior to an appointment. Now, the requirement's only going to apply to future appointments, so the current presidents are unaffected. But, all the regional Fed banks presidents, have a 5-year reappointment. So this gives them a chance to really kind of reshape the Fed into a very dovish Fed, which is what President Trump really is looking for. So, it's going to spark new questions and concerns over the Fed independence because when you have, everyone on one side of the fence, that's not independence. They're doing what the president wants. So we'll have to see. There'll be more highlights will come out of this as we get closer to February. Okay, let's take a look at the markets and see what is happening. I mean, listen, I'm looking at the markets this morning. 1, 2, 3. I got 7 lower. I got 1 unchanged. That means 22 or higher. I mean, that's a positive opening. And I'm looking at my FANG stocks, and honestly, Apple is trading a little lower, but everything else is, flat to higher. So, we could have a very nice positive opening this morning. The S&Ps are up, about 0.8% right now, so we could continue to see those move higher because all indications are that we're going to have some better gains this morning. We're going to have additional gains this morning. So, you're looking at some of the news behind the tape. The EU launches an antitrust probe into Meta over its dominance with WhatsApp. You have a dominant product out there, they got to investigate. That's what they do. But are they harming competition? People have the choice. They're choosing WhatsApp. What else? We got Netflix. We got to talk about Netflix. P-Sky, Paramount Studios, they sweetened the proposal for Warner Brothers Discovery. And it's a better proposal than the other offers. Guy's got a lot of money right now. His dad does anyways. We'll have to see. I mean, I don't think that I'm not really jazzed about the financials with P-Sky. I think they're over-leveraged. But they got cash from Oracle and Larry Ellison. So, it's kind of a case where the son wants to get into the movie business. Those stories never really work out well. What else do we have? Tesla. We got Tesla's November preliminary new car sales in the UK down 19.2% year over year, not positive. We're talking Dow Jones 30 stocks. We're talking Boeing, ticker BA. The FTC is asking Boeing to divest assets that part supplier, because remember they're buying Spirit, which is which they used to own, and they make they make airline parts, and they sell airline parts to both Airbus and Boeing. So the FTC is asking them to divest some assets for the part manufacturers that they sell to Airbus. I don't know if they're going to push. I don't know how much of a. I can't see the FTC really pushing over this hard. So I expect Boeing to be able to buy these guys without any hassles. What else do we have? Oh, we got to talk about Amazon, AMZN. They're planning to expand their delivery network. Okay, they want to be controlling of the delivery from store to residence, and they're talking about cutting ties with with United Postal Service. No, they can't cut the ties entirely. They just can't. But this is actually a benefit for USPS because I don't think they make money on those Amazon shipments. So yeah, they cut ties. Okay. NVIDIA, President Trump spoke to the CEO of NVIDIA yesterday. They talked about export controls. Listen, China's unlikely to accept those H200 chips. That's the bottom line. They want the latest and greatest. And if you're not going to sell me it, I'm not going to buy anything from you. It's my ball and I'm leaving. This is kind of China's approach. In terms of merger news, OpenAI is buying Neptune, which is an AI startup. Terms weren't disclosed. In terms of guidance, PVH Corp, they see Q4 EPS coming in $3.20 to $3.35. Problem is the street estimate is $3.61. That's a big downtick. Then we got to talk about Dollar General, ticker DG, David Grace. They see full year 2025 EPS coming in $6.30 to $6.50. Now the street estimate was $6.13. That's a big uptick. And let's talk Salesforce. They raised their full year 2026 EPS to $11.75 to $11.77. That's a tight range. But the street estimate had it at $11.38, so that's a big uptick for CRM, Salesforce.com. Okay, we've got to talk about shareholders meetings. There's nothing really, hitting the tape on the shareholders meeting today. But I got to point out that Microsoft, MSFT, Mr. Softy, they're having a shareholders meeting tomorrow. It's scheduled for 11:30 a.m. So if you see some weakness in Microsoft, this could be something here. When these big companies have their shareholders meetings, sometimes you get some real positive announcements, especially early in the morning. So you want to keep an eye on Microsoft because that virtual shareholders meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about our stock of the day today. I like this RBRK, Richard Boy, Richard Kilo, Rubik. Earnings are out after the bell. Now, they're expected to lose money this quarter. So the EPS is a negative 62 cents. Okay. But the expected move is 14.70%. Now I look at the option data. Yesterday's option data was 3,821 calls to 2,572 puts. Not 2 to 1, but it is definitely positive. Open interest is 46K to 31K. That's positive as well. Now, it's not widely followed by the major brokers. Goldman's out there. They like the stock. They got a price target, on the stock. I think it was, I'll say 120, I think I saw. And they released a strong report last quarter. So I do think we're going to see some positive action in the stock today. But you know me. I always want to get in it. I always want to wait and try and get in at a discount. You look at the stock this morning; it's trading 71.50 to 71.90. I'm thinking $70.85, give or take 25 cents, somewhere like that. That's kind of my thought process. Want to see a little weakness before I walk in. I don't know if it'll happen, but my pick of the day, RBRK, 70.85, give or take 25 cents. All right, let's see what's happening now. Let's see the stories that are moving the markets this morning. Let's see if there's anything hot that came out. Kroger reports Q3 gross margin 22.8%. Last year was 22.4%, so that's an uptick. TRAK, they announced a 2 million share repurchasing program. All right. PODD, Paul Oscar David Insulin, gets FDA clearance for update to Omnipod 5 automatic insulin delivery. Meta is establishing a new creative studio in Reality Labs, led by Apple's Alan Dye. Oh, he left Apple. Huh. Eli Lilly received expanded FDA approval for their cancer drug. BlackRock expects AI to continue to dominate markets in 2026 despite risks. Russia blocks Apple's FaceTime and mounting push against foreign tech platforms. Intel said yesterday that they're going to be keeping their networking and communications unit in the company, within the company, following the strategic review for options on the unit. Novo Nordisk, ticker NVO, they're going to launch their blockbuster diabetes drug Ozempic in India later this month. All right, that's all I'm saying. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about yesterday's pick of the day, which was Five Below. I mean, did you see what happened with Five Below yesterday? It was a stellar performer. I mean, the stock opened up at $163.03. Then it fell down to $160.06. Then it rallied back up. It hit a high of 166.46 during the trading day. And then you look at the stock this morning after the earnings announcement. I mean, you look at Five Below and it's rallying hard. Five Below is up. It was trading 170. It's now trading 168. It's up 2.97%, up about 3%. So it easily beat the 1% goal. But there's always a but. The fact is, listen, I was looking for an entry price of 159. Didn't get in. I missed it. It did fall to 160, but even if I would have gotten in at the 163, I would have made, which was the opening price, I would have made the 1% because the earnings were so positive. But Five Below at the end of the day was a winner off the opening price, but it did not hit my entry price. So it was still a good call. It was still a very good call. Five Below, FIVE, Frank India, Victor Edward. Okay, guys, that concludes today's podcast. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and let's get some green.